Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A large number of people in the former Kingdom of Bosnia embraced Islam after the Ottoman Empire's conquest in the latter half of the 15th century, giving the region a distinct character within the Balkans. It took more than a century for Islam to become the dominant religion. Most scholars agree that the conversion of the Bosnian population to Islam was mostly peaceful and voluntary, without violence. The homeland of Bosnian Muslims is Bosnia and Herzegovina, located in the Western Balkans, one of the 6 republics of the former Yugoslavia. They share this country with Bosnian Serbs and Croats, whose identities and political orientations largely align with neighboring Serbia and Croatia. Both these neighboring peoples have laid claim to Bosnia and Herzegovina, but the Muslims have resisted these claims. Bosnian Muslims view themselves as a distinct ethnic group or nation and, unlike the Bosnian Serbs and Croats, see Bosnia-Herzegovina as their only homeland. According to the 1991 National Census for Bosnia and Herzegovina, Muslims made up 43.5%, or nearly 2,1,256 people, out of a total population of 4,237,033. However, this number has decreased due to the 1992-1995 war. The largest concentrations of Muslims were in the central, eastern, and northwestern parts of the country. During the war, hundreds of thousands of Muslims either fled or were forcibly expelled from their homes. Thousands were also killed in massacres. For example, when Serb forces captured the city of Srebrenica in eastern Bosnia in July 1995, it's believed that up to 6,000 Muslim men were massacred. The war, particularly the strategy of ethnic cleansing, has led to the internal displacement of nearly 2 million people, mostly Muslims. In addition to the nearly 2 million refugees, an estimated minimum of 200,000 people were killed during the war. The highest number of expulsions and massacres of Muslims occurred in the eastern and northern parts of the country, areas that were predominantly Muslim before 1992, but were taken over by the Bosnian Serbs to form the Republika Srpska. Muslims have traditionally dominated the cities and have a strong urban presence. During the 1992-95 war, more than 1,000 Muslim religious sites were destroyed, including some of the oldest and finest examples of Bosnian Muslim architecture. Notably, the famous Ferhad Pasha Mosque in Banja Luka and the Alaja Mosque in Foča were demolished by Serbian nationalist forces. Additionally, the old Ottoman bridge in Mostar was destroyed by Croatian nationalist forces. Bosnian Muslims are the largest ethnic group in Bosnia and Herzegovina and hold significant influence in the political unit known as the Bosniak Croat Federation. The capital city, Sarajevo, has long been shaped by its Muslim population. Since 1995, the Muslim community has primarily settled in the major cities under Bosnian Muslim control, such as Sarajevo, Zenica, and Tuzla. The Dayton Agreement, signed on November 21, 1995, formalized the official name for Bosnian Muslims as Bosniak, an English translation of the ethnonym Bošnjak, Bošnjaci, which is preferred by the Bosnian Muslim political leadership. Bosnian Muslims, or Bosniaks, follow Sunni Islam and adhere to the Hanafi school of law. Religion is the primary factor distinguishing Bosniaks from Serbs and Croats in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Because religion and ethnic identity are closely linked in Bosnia-Herzegovina, public expressions of religious beliefs were discouraged in socialist Yugoslavia from 1945 to 1990. Being a member of the Communist Party, which was essential for career advancement or state employment, meant one could not openly practice their religion. This restriction applied to all 3 religious communities in Bosnia, but Muslims often faced particularly strict limitations on their religious expressions. During this time, only a small number of Muslims devoutly practiced the 5 pillars of Islam. Towards the late 1980s, the regime began to relax its stance on religion, leading to the construction of many new mosques, often funded by Islamic countries in the Middle East. With the disintegration of Yugoslavia in the late 1980s and early 1990s, there was a growing popular interest in religion and Islamic practices. The war and the significant suffering and losses endured by Muslims heightened awareness of Islamic religious practices. In the nationalist climate of the 1990s, Islamic rituals became central to expressing Bosniak national identity. Islamic symbols were key elements in the emblems and political rhetoric of the main Muslim party, the SDA, which was elected to power in 1990. In Islam, religious ceremonies mark important life cycle events like male circumcision, marriage, and death. Among Bosnian Muslims, circumcision is typically not highly elaborate, although some devout families might organize a mevlud, a special prayer ceremony, in connection with their son's circumcision. Religious wedding ceremonies were rare before 1990, but are becoming more common. They tend to be low-key and private events. Death is the life crisis that receives the most ritual attention, with various congregational prayers offered for the deceased. The tevhid, especially the women's tevhid, plays a central role in these rituals. Ceremonial holidays follow the Islamic calendar. Some, like the New Year and the Prophet's birthday, are observed mainly by devout Muslims, while others have broader appeal. Ramadan ends with the sighting of the crescent moon, and Eid al-Fitr is widely celebrated by most Bosnian Muslims, regardless of whether they are fasting or not. In this way, Bajram is similar to Christmas in the Christian Western world. During socialist Yugoslavia, only a small number of devout Muslims, primarily women, observed fasting, but this number has been increasing since 1990. Bosnian Muslims are also celebrating Eid al-Adha. Throughout the year, individual Muslim households may host a mevlud, often linked to joyful events like the birth of a child. Tawhid, or prayers for the dead, is the most commonly held non-calendric ceremony. Muslims are required to pray 5 times a day and for men to attend the mosque on Fridays. While devout Muslims adhere to these practices, most Bosnian Muslims do not. Bosnian Muslim architecture is evident in the style of mosques and houses in old neighborhoods in cities like Sarajevo, Travnik, and Mostar. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bosnian Muslims have lived alongside Orthodox Serbs and Catholic Croats throughout the country. During particularly difficult periods of institutionalized discrimination or political pressure, some Muslims emigrated and established communities abroad. As a result of the 1992-1995 war, Bosnian Muslim communities can now be found throughout Europe, with the largest number in Germany. Outside of Europe, groups of Bosnian refugees, with the assistance of the United Nations, have resettled in the United States, Canada, Australia, Turkey, Indonesia, and Pakistan. Bosnian Muslims are the largest ethnic group in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The internationally recognized country consists of 2 entities, a Serb entity, Republika Srpska, and the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which includes Bosnian Muslims, Bosniaks, and Bosnian Croats. Following the 1996 elections, the Muslim Nationalist Party, the SDA, secured an absolute majority in the Federation Parliament, enabling it to elect the Prime Minister and most of the ministers. There is significant power sharing between the Muslims and the Croats within the Federation. The Federation devolves substantial powers to cantons and municipalities, with certain cantons being predominantly Muslim, others predominantly Croat, and some mixed. In mixed cantons, elaborate procedures ensure power sharing between Muslims and Croats. Although a substantial portion of the Muslim population has legal and voting rights within the Republika Srpska, most do not reside there due to being ethnically cleansed from this territory and have not been able to return. Bosnia-Herzegovina has a weak central government with limited control over functions such as foreign relations, foreign trade, and currency. Even military matters are managed by the 2 entities. The national parliament consists of 2/3 of its members from the Federation and 1/3 from the Republika Srpska. The presidency rotates every 8 months between a Serb, a Muslim, and a Croat. In 1996, the presidential election was won by Bosnian Muslim Alija Izetbegović. In rural areas, Islam was always practiced as part of a broader set of traditions, less scriptural than the practices of the devout elite in cities. Rural religious practices blended Orthodox Islamic practices, popular Islamic practices, like visiting saints' graves for health and fortune, and other non-Islamic customs shared with Christian neighbors. In some regions of Bosnia and Herzegovina, the influence of the Naqshbandi Sufi order is evident in local practices. Before 1992, Muslims were settled throughout Bosnia and Herzegovina, but there were sharp regional variations in ethnic composition. For example, in the Bihać area in the northwest, Muslims made up 91% of the population. In some areas, such as around Banja Luka, Muslims lived among a Serb majority, while in western Herzegovina, they lived among a Croat majority. In some parts of central Bosnia, Croats and Muslims were found in almost equal numbers, while in eastern Bosnia, Muslims were either a majority or found in equal numbers with Serbs. However, these regions had considerable variations between municipalities. After the 1992-95 war, Muslims were concentrated in central areas, including the capital Sarajevo and major cities like Tuzla and Zenica. The major cities often have an old city center and a newer area characterized by high-rise buildings. The former were divided into mahallas, or neighborhoods, traditionally inhabited by one ethnic group. In rural areas, Muslims lived either in separate villages or hamlets, or in ethnically mixed ones, mostly either Muslim Croat or Muslim Serb. Settlements typically consisted of families of brothers. As a result of the 1992-95 war, there are hardly any ethnically mixed village communities left, and approximately 2/3 of all housing has been destroyed or damaged. The war in Bosnia and Herzegovina severely disrupted pre-war economic activities. During the conflict, people survived by cultivating small plots of land, receiving food aid and remittances from abroad, and some engaged in black market activities. The unemployment rate was extremely high, estimated at around 80%. There are no specific subsistence or economic activities unique to Muslims. Although there are full-time farmers, most agriculture is subsistence-based, meaning rural households primarily earn their income from industry and labor migrations, supplementing their economy with small agricultural holdings. Women often sell agricultural products such as milk, butter, and eggs at local markets. As in many rural areas of southern Europe, where wage labor and male labor migrations have become significant income sources, agriculture has become female-centered. From the 1960s until the early 1990s dissolution of Yugoslavia, many Bosnian Muslims, as well as Serbs and Croats, migrated for labor, primarily to Germany and Austria. When the European labor market became more restricted in the 1980s, men sought opportunities in Canada and Australia. Additionally, Yugoslav companies engaged in construction projects in the Middle East, where Bosnian Muslim men worked on contracts. The money they earned was often invested back home, typically in building new houses or establishing private businesses in Bosnia. Bosnian Muslims practice exogamy and disapprove of marriages between relatives up to the 9th generation, with generations counted from the individual up to an apical ancestor. Since genealogies are rarely known beyond the 3rd or 4th generation, this prohibition usually applies to any known cousins or traceable genealogical ties. In rural areas and among urban religious families, marriages with non-Muslim Bosnians are disapproved. Bosnian Muslims, like their Serb and Croat counterparts, are exogamous within their kin group and endogamous within their ethno-religious group, though there are numerous exceptions in more urban settings. During the socialist period in Yugoslavia, all marriages had to be registered with secular authorities before a religious ceremony could take place. Only a few devout Muslims married according to Sharia or Islamic law, which held symbolic value but did not override secular marriage laws. Polygyny is not permitted and was never common, even when Islamic marriage law was recognized by authorities. Divorce is socially acceptable, religiously permissible, and not uncommon. Depending on the situation, children may remain with either the father or the mother. The legal age for marriage in Bosnia is 18, but in practice, particularly for girls, marriages often occur earlier. This is facilitated by the traditional custom of elopement. Socially, a couple is considered married if the woman is brought to the man's parents' home as a bride, spends the night there, followed by a series of visits and gift exchanges between the groom's and bride's families. Being married is essential for gaining recognition as an adult and responsible individual in society. Regarding religiosity, surveys conducted by the Pew Research Center in 2012, 2013, and 2017 provide the most comprehensive recent data. These surveys indicate that in terms of prayer, reading the Quran, fasting, attending mosque, or going to Mecca, Bosnian Muslims are less religious than Arabs, Turks, or South Asian Muslims, but often more religious than some Muslims from Eastern Europe and Central Asia, such as those from Albania, Azerbaijan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan. According to the 2012 and 2013 surveys, almost all Bosnian Muslims, 96%, profess a belief in one God and Prophet Muhammad, while fewer believe in the afterlife, 83% in 2012 and 81% in 2017. For comparison, the figures are 92% and 87% for Turkey, 76% and 73% for Russia, 72% and 61% for Kosovo, and 53% and 46% for Albania. Only half of Bosnian Muslims believe in angels, compared with 96% in Turkey, 60% in Russia and Kosovo, and 42% in Albania, which contradicts standard Islamic theology that all pillars of faith should be held in equal regard. Religion was very important to 36% of Bosnian Muslims in 2012 compared to 15% of Albanians, 44% of Muslims in Kosovo and Russia, and 67% in Turkey. By 2017, 59% of Bosnian Muslims said religion was very important in their lives, a higher percentage than in Russia, Bulgaria, or Georgia. They are also more religious than the Christian populations in Bosnia. In 2012, 14% of Bosnian Muslims reported praying 5 times a day, with an additional 4% praying several times a day. By 2017, this figure had increased to 20%, compared to 23% of Russian Muslims. Only 30% of Bosnian Muslims pray once a week in the mosque, compared to 44% in Turkey. Nonetheless, they are more observant than the country's Orthodox and Catholic populations. Thank you for watching our video on the fascinating history and religious practices of Bosnian Muslims. We hope you found it informative and engaging. If you enjoyed this content and want to learn more about diverse cultures, religions, and histories, please subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll stay updated with our latest videos and help us continue to bring you high-quality, insightful content. Don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts with us. Your support means a lot, and we look forward to exploring more topics with you. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.